Alright, this is what I'm going to be making today. 1948 reproduction. I've had this in my stash for about 10 years now, which is pretty crazy. And I just hadn't felt like I had the occasion, but you know what? The occasion is I'm turning 30. 30. Decided that this is the perfect opportunity to make this dress. And I am going to use this beautiful rayon cotton blend from Hawaii Fabric Mart.com. This has been in my stash for probably over a year, maybe 2 years. I've had it for a while, but it's got a nice drape to it. It's not too flimsy, but it's not too thick either. It should be a good weight for this dress, I think. So what I'm gonna do is basically baste pretty much the whole dress together and just check the fit because I'm not making muslin. But I feel pretty confident that it's gonna fit. I have pretty standard measurements, luckily. I don't have any proportions that are really extreme other than my waist to hip measurement ratio. Even with that, I can usually account for that within just grading. I think that this should be fine based on the finished garment measurements. Anyway, so this is actually the back, and it's got some little button loops here, and it has a shoulder drape that comes down like this. It's permanent, it's sewn, it's not something that's snapped on later, and it's got this beautiful ruching detail on the front of the skirt. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I cannot wait to make it. Let's do it. Let's baste the rest of this baby. So cozy in here today. It's very rainy. So I have basted the back bodice together, and now I'm going to baste the two back skirt pieces together. And I'm even basting all the darts and everything, just so that I can kind of adjust as needed. Once I can kind of try it on, then I'll pinch and pin. And I'm not going to do any seam finishing other than just pinking and anything that it tells me to do, like folding over and sewing. That should reduce some bulk. So let's do it. This reproduction is actually from 2001, I believe, which is pretty crazy that it was either run for a few years and it just happened to be still in that Joann's drawer when I went to get it, or it was actually like 9 years old at that point when I bought it. Just waiting for me one day when they had a vintage Vogue sale to come in and buy it. I remember I said to my mom on the phone, because I didn't have a job, so if I was gonna buy any patterns or anything, which is part of the reason why I didn't sew a whole lot until a few years ago, I just didn't feel like I had the money. So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, all these vintage Vogue patterns, they're on sale. They're only $4 each. And she was like, okay, get some. So I got a ton of them, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to sew them anytime soon, just because of my skill level and just money and time. But I knew I would want them eventually. So I hung on to them, and I'm so glad that I did. Because now I get to enjoy this. And the other nice thing about it is that back then, I didn't know you weren't supposed to cut patterns. I know some people do. And if you're a team cut, maybe you should try team trace. So luckily I didn't cut my pattern, because if I had, I would have cut the smaller size and just gotten rid of the rest of it, and I would be very, very sad right now. So I have to grade it. So I didn't do that, yay me. And now 10 years later, I'm finally making this pattern. So it's kind of interesting. This pattern that I'm working on right now is only the second pattern that I've ever seen this construction where you press the seam allowance down and then essentially top stitch that piece to the other piece. And ironically enough, this dress is the only other pattern that I've used that does that. It's kind of crazy. I don't know It seems like that's just kind of an, I don't want to say outdated, but it's just not really a common attachment style anymore. I suppose it kind of does reduce bulk in a way. I think it's just a really, really nice finishing. Like, let me show you. Since I didn't make a video about this dress, and I should. I'll do it someday. It had you fold this seam allowance for the skirt down and then top stitch that in place. Same with this. I think it's so cute. I'm not gonna, I mean, cause I'm just testing the fit right now. So I think what I'll do is I'll just sew the seam like I normally would, the right sides together, just to test that fit. All right, they're basted, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So I will be able to try the back on at least. See if that will work. Hopefully that will fit. Suspect I might have to extend the dirt down a bit. I usually do on the hip, but back here. We shall see. And I'll be right back. All right, so I have the two front pieces and they are different, so you can't cut these on the fold because of that shoulder drape thing. On this side, sorry about the awful noise over there. Kind of to this effect. So what I'm gonna do is sew the darts, and you know what? I'm not gonna baste these ones. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and sew them. I think it'll be fine. And then I have to sew, there's a little spot right, so this little bump right here. So that actually becomes a little gathered piece, I believe. Oh no, that's right above the gathered piece. So the little bump right here is actually, it's right above where that center front skirt panel is. I have to sew a little pleat right here and then reinforce this area. Dang it, I have to look at my pattern again. All right, I think it's just, I need to reinforce along this little bump here to the bottom of the pleat marking right there. And then clip kind of right in the center of that, I think. Yeah, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'll hold off on the clipping. Clip to large circles. All right, well, I think I got a little confused because I didn't see these other ones up here. So I think it's just a matter of cutting right to that spot. Alright, so I've clipped there, now I just have to clip down here too, actually. Here. And the other one. Okay, hopefully I clipped to the right spots. To make pleat in front section on outside, crease along edge of small circles. Bring crease to line of large circles, baste raw edges together. Okay, I can do that. So we need to bring this part up to this part right here. And then baste raw edges together. Okay. Yeah, so the pleat's gonna be going up. I just basted there. It's not cute, but it works. It's the pleat. I have to baste along this raw edge. Okay, and now I need to gather along the front edges. This is gonna be this little skirt gathering section right here. So I am going to make 2 lines of gathering stitches up here between this pleat and I think I might have missed that in my pattern markings. Dang it. You know what, I think it looks like it's the spot where it kind of starts to flare out. I think it's probably there. We're just gonna go with that. Alright, I've got my 2 lines that already kind of started gathering on its own. That's cool. And I'm gonna do the other side now. Alright, the next steps are some finishing bits that I'm not going to do yet because I still need to try this on. And looks like the next step after that is actually attaching a shoulder drape. So I'm also going to hold off on that. I think I'm going to go ahead and baste the front pieces together with the center front skirt panel. I'll pin it together at the side seams and the shoulder seams, and then I'll try it on and get the general fit. Okay, I pinned. I didn't actually pin the side seams. You know what? Let's go to the full length mirror in the other room. Hold on. Oh, this is messy. Okay, so disregard all the crap in the background. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really good. When I kind of held it up, it seemed like everything seemed to fit really, really well with the dress on underneath. So I think I am gonna just go for it. I'm gonna go ahead and sew all of the seams, and now I'm seeing, I was trying so hard to avoid the motif doubling situation, and I see I freaking somehow, by trying to not intentionally match stuff up, I still unintentionally. That is like my #1 sewing pet peeve. Oh. Earth Marie's gonna be like, whatever. We're just gonna keep going, and then maybe I can get clever and do some. I don't know. I don't have enough fabric to like cut on another panel, I don't think. You know what? It's gonna be fine. So I'm telling myself it's gonna be fine. Okay. Let's sew this. Now, this is where I have to turn in the upper edge seam allowance and press. So I'm gonna go do that, and I will be right back. Alright, so I have pressed the seam allowance down. So now I have to lay the skirt on top of the bodice and match up the seam lines, and then baste and stitch, edge stitch. And now I'm going to edge stitch. Actually, first I'm going to baste. Probably baste by hand actually, and then edge stitch all along the top of there. You know, I do have an edge stitching foot, but I think I'm just gonna use my regular foot to edge stitch. So here we go. Oh, yes. Success. Look at that. Oh, that is... You can't see that. Look at that. Oh, that is clean. so happy with that. Is this sewing ASMR? Okay, next. It wants me to finish around here, the raw edge, and then turn in the shoulder seam allowance. I'm gonna actually serge this edge, but I'm gonna press this really quick. But I've got the back facing pinned, so I have to stitch this top here and there, and then I have to turn and understitch. So I will do that now. Alright, back facing is complete. Now I need to move on to hand rolling this and this curve, which involves stitching 1/4 inch away from the edge, trimming, and then slip stitching that roll into place. And that's what I'm gonna do now. Alright, now before I can hand roll the whole drape, I have to press this, kink these seam allowances, and then I can hand roll the entire drape. And it's gonna take a while. Alrighty, so now I have to finish the raw edges of this, fold it in. Well, I'm going to serge around the edges first, fold it in, press, and that is going to be the neck hole facing, neck hole? The neckline facing right here. So let's do that. Alright, so now I'm going to take this facing and I'm going to sew right sides together to the front of the bodice. And then I will trim. There's a little marking here where I have to cut a hole. Alright, not bad, not bad. I think I can catch these little bits right at the top, because I want that to be closed there. I think it's good. Perfect. Well, I don't want to say the P word, but pretty good. Yay. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is clip into here. Oh, it's gonna be a little bit nerve-wracking. I'm gonna clip into this little space right here, cut that out, and then understitch. Turn it inside out and understitch. So here we go. It says trim seam to 1/4 inch and clip. Okay, it's all clipped. Now I've got to understitch. It's gonna be interesting. This is my skirt here. Here's the panel. I just have to line up the dots here. This is probably going to be a little tricky to sew, actually. It's kind of an awkward piece. Gotta make sure I don't get my panel, my center front panel twisted. It's really important when you gather that the grain of the fabric, the little puckers are kind of parallel, because when you do the 2 lines of stitches, sometimes if you pull one more than the other, your gathers can start to go weird. Like you want them to be parallel. So I'm just trying to make sure that they are here. Okay, well, I'm gonna baste this top section, and then once that's good, I will sew, and then I'll sew down the whole center front side seams. I've basted the center front panel. Now let's see how I did. It's not bad. I think I could have gotten that corner, those corners a little sharper here and here. You know what? I think it's okay. I think I need to move these gathers on this side up just a tiny bit because I don't think there's enough gathering right here. I think it's too flat right there. Let's see if that will be good. Just really, I'm trying to make sure that this angle is the same on both sides. I think I need to come down a little bit more on this side. I think that's good. Let me try this on kind of. All right, I just tried it on, kind of just held it up, and it looked really good. It looked better than just holding it. So I am going to call that good. I'm going to now sew the final stitching line here and then sew these center front seams together. I have finished sewing the center front panel. I'm gonna go ahead and pink the seams for the center front panel, clean it up a little bit, and then I'm going to tack down the neckline facing and finish that off before I move on to the next step. Next up, sewing the shoulder seams. This is one shoulder, this is another shoulder. So now just gotta stitch the shoulders. Got a little more hand sewing to do, so I've got my seams sewn together, my shoulder seams now. And I'm just going to pink these, and then I have to open it up and then hand sew the back neck facing to the shoulder seam. We're getting so close! It's time to sew the side seams. Hooray! It's me again. Alright. So next up is to narrow hem the sleeves, and I did that by first serging. And now I'm going to fold that over twice and then stitch that down. I had to slip stitch it. Look at that, it's so nice. It's time to do the zipper, so I'm gonna go and press the seam allowance, and then I'm actually gonna hand pick the zipper because I like doing it. I'll match the rest of the hand stitching, and it'll be nice. As you can see here, I went across the zipper opening with sort of a ladder type stitch. Would not recommend. If you're going to hand pick your zipper, then make sure when you do your basting stitch, you actually stitch along the seam line, not across it. It caused it to kind of shift around a lot, and I had a heck of a time getting it straight and keeping the two sides taut. So just good to know for next time. After the zipper, I moved on to creating the button loops. I used a double thread and I tried a couple different pens as a gauge, but I ended up using my pinky finger. So you want to make sure that the button can pass through before you move on to the next step. Once you have all your loops created, you use a buttonhole stitch and go across the whole loop. This is actually the first time I've ever done this, and it was really fun, and I definitely will be doing this technique again in the future. I think using some buttonhole twist thread would probably make it easier, but regular thread worked. To make the shoulder pads, you cut out the different crescent shapes and then you lay them on top of each other like concentric arcs. And then you catch stitch. I kind of did some catch stitching, some just whip stitching. Got lazy around the edges of each one. And you're not trying to like pull them super tight, the stitches, you just want them to be nice and loose so it's not puckering. After that, you take your shoulder pad cover and then you actually have to go around here at 3/8 of an inch along the edge. The first one I hand stitched. I'm going to use my machine and stitch the longest stitch length around the edge here and see which one works out better. Now I'm going to pull these threads and that will kind of create a little lip for the shoulder pad to rest in. Alright, so I did one with the hand stitching around the edges and then one with the machine stitch around the edges, and they pretty much are about the same. So maybe you could kind of go either way with that. So now I'm going to actually try the dress on and work out placement of these. Well, my 30th birthday looked a lot different than I thought it would. Here's to hoping that my 31st birthday is a little bit different, a bit different. I hope that you enjoyed watching me put this dress together. It was overall easier than I thought it would be. I mean, there were some fiddly bits, but for the most part, it was pretty easy. Lots of hand sewing. Seriously. Well, the yard work is my cue. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Liz Von Villas. My Facebook group is Vintage Sewing with Liz. I would love to have you. And until next time, bye.